Okay, so here are the answers to the questions at the end of the previous chapter. So why don't you pause the video while you tick them off, and you can carry on with the next chapter, which is evolution. So what is Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection? Well, the theory of evolution is that all things evolved from simple life forms over billions of years. That's the theory of evolution. And Darwin said it happened by natural selection. Natural selection is the mechanism by which evolution took place. And he said it happens like this. There must be variation in a population. There will be individuals with different characteristics. Variation is the key word. Not all individuals will be able to survive. There may be predators, there may be diseases, or there may be competition for resources. So some will survive and some won't. Now, which ones will survive? It's those individuals with favourable characteristics which are more likely to survive and breed. Survive and breed being key words, which means that their favourable genes are then passed on to the next generation. And you must get into your answers this idea that the favourable genes are passed on to another generation. You can't stop at the point where they breed. You have to say that these favourable genes are passed on to the next generation. And if a gene mutates, then more rapid change may occur. So remember, a mutation is a change in a gene. So remember to relate your answer to the organism in the question. So if the question's about, for example, birds with a stronger beak, talk about that. Say that the stronger beak allows those birds to eat a particular food, so they survive, they breed, they pass on the gene for the stronger beak, and so on. Don't give a general answer. Don't just say those that are best adapted survive. You have to talk about the organism in question and what its adaptation is. Darwin's theory of evolution by natural selection wasn't accepted at first. People reacted with horror at this suggestion. Why? Well, at the time, many people were very religious, and Darwin's theory challenged the idea of God creating all the plants and animals on Earth in the 7 days of Genesis. And of course, the mechanism of inheritance wasn't known. Nobody knew about genes or DNA. And there wasn't enough evidence at the time. There were big gaps in the fossil record where there were no artifacts or anything to account for what had happened. So it just wasn't convincing evidence. There were other theories going around at the time. One was by a Frenchman called Jean-Baptiste Lamarck, and this is called the theory of inheritance of acquired characteristics, where organisms gain characteristics during their lifetime. So, for example, something that's commonly talked about is the giraffe, so stretching his neck to reach higher food. As he keeps stretching it during his lifetime, it gets longer and longer. And this characteristic is passed on to the next generation. So characteristics that we acquire during our lifetime are then passed on to our children. That's Lamarckian inheritance. It does seem very daft to us now, but don't forget, at that time they didn't know about the mechanism of inheritance. They didn't know about DNA and genes. Sad giraffes, happy giraffes. So what are evolutionary trees? Now, by studying similarities and differences between organisms, we can suggest evolutionary relationships, how closely related are different organisms. So this evolutionary tree, for example, shows the relationships between primates, human-like animals, and it shows that humans are more closely related to chimpanzees than to any other primate. By the structure of the branching, you can see that humans and chimpanzees are more closely related. Okay, so that's the end of this chapter. Hopefully you've printed off all the notes so you can have a go at these questions now. You'll find the answers at the beginning of the next chapter. Good luck! Okay, so here are the answers to the questions at the end of the previous